Fall is all about cozy comforts, and with Hero Bread, you can enjoy all your favorites and still hit your health goals. From breakfast bagels and meal prepped enchiladas to mouth-watering burgers and cheesy noodles. You won't believe Hero Bread's options have 0 to 5 grams net carbs and are high fiber from the taste and texture. And right now, Hero Bread is offering 10% off your order. Go to hero.co and use code FALL25 at checkout. That's FALL25 at hero.co. All figures are per serving of Hero Bread. Contains 2 to 18 grams of fat per serving. See the product nutrition panels on hero.co for more information.
How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the nation. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, happy to have you. Well, Scott Jennings on CNN last night. This is too good not to share. Scott Jennings completely caused the gals at CNN to melt down last night when he made one very basic point. And I love how he does this too. He just makes a statement with a smile and sits back and knows it's so easy to trigger the left right now. Just listen to this.
You realize that you're accepting some politicization of science, but not others, right?
What's the politicization of science that's been accepted?
Can men get pregnant or not?
Scott,
if you're in the CDC and you believe that, I'm saying you're not a terribly credible person.
The CDC that is responsible for the health and well-being of the nation.
That has absolutely nothing to do with
it. It does, because it's a question of whether your scientists are going to politicize or not, and you accept some and not others.
To do with the conversation that we are having.
That's just the
I disagree. It's a credibility.
Why would we do that?
Don't you, Scott. That has nothing to do with what we're talking. He's talking about undermining the CDC. Does that not undermine the CDC, Scott? Yes, it does. Notice how the inconvenient facts, and again, like as he points out, it's a 97-3. It's not even 80-20. It's 97-3. And apparently the 3% make up the round table at CNN. They couldn't. My gosh, we can't discuss this. But you know what they can't discuss? Gun control. That's right. Here we go. Gun control. Here's Moms Demand Action.
Angela Ferrazabala is the executive director of Moms Demand Action, which is part of Everytown for Gun Safety's grassroots network. Angela, appreciate you taking the time to join us today. The comments that we heard from the vice president, again, in response to what we heard from RFK Jr., from the secretary, what does that do in terms of a focus on gun violence? Does it help or hurt your efforts?
Look, I think it's, first of all, I just have to say it's absolutely ridiculous. One of the things I often say when people talk about mental health is, sure, I think we need more resources when it comes to mental health, not just in this country. We're thinking about across this globe, people face crises like this, but yet we're the only place on earth that this is happening. The only place. It's access to firearms. It's easy access to firearms, period. I was just in Minnesota yesterday, and the community's reeling after the mass shooting that happened, and that was only a day after one that happened before with an AR-style rifle.
You know, I hear this all the time from the left that we're the only country where stuff like this happens, and we're actually not. There are other countries. Norway was an example, tragically, recently. Others as well. And in Britain, they have stabbing deaths and gang rapes by Pakistani men. They may not have shootings. They have other problems to deal with. Here's the problem for the left. You keep wanting to go to guns. And this is why I actually think, and I'm not trying to say people on the left are demons here. Some of you will extrapolate that. Some of you believe it. That's not what I'm saying. But there is a level of the demonic in the conversations that the left and the right have where they keep going back to, it's not even an insanity thing. It's they dogmatically double down on a position that they cannot advance, so that the actual situation can't be resolved. In fact, the left is dismissing mental health and what to do with mental health. But 2/3 of gun violence in this country would go away if you actually dealt with mental health. And we're not going to take away the guns, and that's the problem here. You know what we actually need as a solution in this country that the left doesn't want to contemplate? The media shouts you down for saying we need more guns, not less. I know that sounds completely counterintuitive, but y'all, how often do we have school shootings and the conversation turns to take away all the guns? You can't take away all the guns. First of all, if you ban assault rifles, what are you going to do? The assault rifle ban from the 1990s wasn't exactly effective. You could take what people call an assault weapon, an AR, modify it, and get around the assault weapons ban very easily. You can't get rid of handguns in this country. There are more guns in this country than there are people. There are more guns in this country than there are people. And you would think that the left, instead of saying take away people's property, where overwhelmingly guns are not killing people, they would want to deal with, okay, what's causing people to want to use guns to kill people? Maybe we deal with that problem. And if not, why aren't we arming teachers, volunteers? Guy I follow on social media, I don't want to give the background because it is somewhat sensitive, but his kid goes to a school where they've had a lot of death threats because it is an overwhelmingly Jewish population. He served in the Israeli military, lives in the United States, and he now goes to school every day. He has a work from home job, and he works at school armed as one of the volunteers to take care of his school, take care of his kids at school. We're not going to ban guns in the country. We have more guns than people in the country. So why not think different? Because you get a lot of money. This is why they get a lot of money to not think different. They get a lot of money from the left to just say, let's ban guns, knowing it's not going to happen. This isn't a Roe v. Wade situation, and if it is, they're not playing the long game. They're playing a here and now game that doesn't work. They're not trying to replace the members of the Supreme Court to undo the cases that gave a personal individual right to keep and bear arms. They're not trying to get 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate and 3/4 of the states to repeal the Second Amendment. They're not trying to do that. They just go on television and say, it's the guns. It's the guns. We got to ban the guns. We got to take guns away. It's the guns. They never say it's the people. It's the inanimate object. It's not the people. And then when Republicans try to say maybe we should deal with mental health, no, we can't deal with mental health. No. Just listen. This is MSNBC. This guy on MSNBC.
Look, mental health in America on this planet, obviously a crisis. We should be investing and exploring ways to actually address that. I just fail to see how that is a more useful direction for the American attention than actual practical solutions to gun control. You may think that gun control is a very pie-in-the-sky concept that is politically not viable for all of the obvious reasons, having to do with special interests in America and what Donald Trump thinks his base is like. I just wonder if anybody plausibly believes that solving mental health is more plausible than making a difference when it comes to, for instance, PLACA, right, which is the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, which is a question that I return to, that act, when I think about why isn't there litigation? Why aren't there civil suits in the way that ensue following massive tragedies involving cars, right?
That's right. This guy thinks it's harder to deal with mental health problems than to upend our constitutional regime. That's right. Let's allow people to sue gun manufacturers, needless torts against gun manufacturers, than actually deal with mental health problems. I love the arrogance there. I love the arrogance there. I can't believe anyone would think it'd be easier to deal with mental health than gun problems. Dude, we've had Columbine, we've had mass shootings at schools since the 1990s. We still haven't dealt with gun control. Maybe, just maybe, we should try to deal with mental health instead. Maybe just the arrogance of, I just don't know how anyone thinks that we can deal with the mental health problem when it's really easy to just get rid of PLACA, the law that allows people to not sue or prohibits people from suing gun manufacturers. Well, my gosh, they've tried that for 15, 20 years and they hadn't been successful. So maybe try something else. Wow, it's just wow. By the way, this guy is an American sports writer and podcaster, so hyper, super qualified to talk about the subject on MSNBC. The left keeps wanting to ban guns. We've had Columbine, we've had Newtown, we've had just Sandy Hook, we've had Parkland, we've had this one in Minneapolis, we've had multiple ones in Texas, had one in Wisconsin, here in Georgia. All over, we have this evil, and the left keeps saying, well, we got to ban the guns, and we haven't banned the guns. So maybe get some buy-in on mental health. You can't get rid of the Second Amendment without 2/3 of the Congress and 3/4 of the states agreeing, and you're not going to get there. Good luck. You're not going to get there. So maybe up the funding for mental health. But you see, here's part of the problem. This goes back to the Scott Jennings clip again. Let me play this again. It's completely unrelated, but perfectly related to this.
You realize that you're accepting some politicization of science, but not others, right?
What's the politicization of science that's been accepted?
Can men get pregnant or not?
Scott,
we're talking
in the
about
CDC,
we're
you believe
talking
that.
about
I'm
the
saying you're
we're
not a
talking
terribly
about
credible
the
person.
CDC that is responsible for the health and well-being of the
that
nation.
Has absolutely nothing
Nothing
to do with
to
the
do.
It
conversation.
does,
that we
because
not.
it's a question of whether your scientists are going to politicize or not, and you accept some and not others.
To do with the
It has everything to do with the conversation, but Abby Phillips doesn't like the inconvenience of it being pointed out, so she's got to try to shut him down on it. But it also has everything to do with this conversation as well. See, the left doesn't want to have the conversation about mental health because what we know now from the monster who murdered the children in Minneapolis is that he regretted his transition. Have you heard that in the press? No, because they're still saying she. They've all decided to say she now and to say Robin instead of Robert. Did you know that Robert regretted his transition? He wrote about it in his diary and manifesto, how he felt like a failure and now he wanted to cut his hair because he was disgusted by his hair and realized he was a man. Why did he go through that? And it was just a sign of failure on his part to give up, but he was ready to give up because he didn't want to be a girl anymore. He wanted to go back to being a guy. He wrote about it. Have you heard that in the press? I bet you haven't. I've read the pages. He wrote about it. And so they can't talk about mental health. They have to talk about the one thing that they're not going to do because they don't want to do the one thing they could do and deal with mental health. Because if they dealt with the mental health issue, they'd have to ask themselves, why are all these trans shooters showing up, gunning down Christian kids? Why are all these trans shooters showing up, engaged in violence at churches? Why does this keep happening? They can't answer that question. They don't want to answer the question because the question is too awkward for them to have to deal with. And the data is there to show that there is a real problem. The data is there to show a serious problem with the mental health of people who have transitioned. And what the media has instead done is decided to shut down the conversation and pretend it doesn't exist and pretend there's no problem and pretend that there is no mental health issue. Roger Saravino points out, 2018, Parkland was a male shooter. Highlands Ranch Stem, one male, one female, trans-identifying. Uvalde was male. Nashville Covenant was female, trans-identifying. Appalachia High was male. Minneapolis Catholic was male, trans-identifying. Biological females account for 1/3 of the recent school shootings, compared to 3% of mass public shootings from 1982 to 2015. Trans-identifying people constitute approximately 0.8% of the population and have been involved in 50% of recent school shootings. 5 out of 7 of the shooters come from broken homes. 6 out of 7 received therapy or psychiatric treatment before the shootings. 6 out of 7 received therapy or psychiatric treatment before the shootings. But let's not deal with the mental health issue. Let's try to get 2/3 of the House, 2/3 of the Senate, and 3/4 of the states to ban the guns. Yep, that's the easy one. Or not. Greetings. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here. Open Line Friday, 877-973-7425. Those of you on the phones, stay with me. I went long in the last segment trying to do better about my clock management here, but it's Friday and I was worked out. I really do love the Abby Phillips. Scott. That's not funny, Scott. My goodness gracious. You can tell he makes a great point when Abby Phillips tries to shut him up. I'm just going to say this succinctly for all you kids at home. I feel very firmly, as much as I dislike Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and think he's a kook and a conspiracy theorist who is destroying our public health service in America, he would not be in charge of our public health service in America had the people who told us to shut down our schools and shut down our country for multiple weeks and months on end to stop the spread of COVID been able to tell gay men to stop having sex for 2 weeks to stop monkeypox. You wanted to shut the entire country down to stop COVID, but you couldn't even tell gay men just don't have orgies for 2 weeks. Couldn't do it because you put politics ahead of the science. You put progressivism ahead of the science. So you discredited yourselves. You discredited your institution, and people stopped believing the experts because it became clear the experts really didn't care. They just wanted to control certain groups. And so people decided to burn it all down. And that's what we are watching Robert F. Kennedy Jr. do. Many of us have family who are caught in the crosshairs, but we wouldn't have gotten here but for the arrogance of the public health administrations guided by progressive ideology more than science. Now, the Eden Pure Thunderstorm, I need to tell you, you can get 3 of them and save $200. Get them for less than $200 at EdenPureDeals.com. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code ERIC3, ERICK3 at EdenPureDeals.com. They get rid of dust. They get rid of pollen. They get rid of pet dander. They kill 99.9% of bacteria and viruses that float through the device, and they generate ozone and wipe out all odors in the room. You can get 3 of them, one for upstairs, downstairs, your basement, your travel bag, your RV. You can hold it in your hand. You can plug it up with a USB cord. You can plug it into the wall. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code ERIC3, ERICK3 at EdenPureDeals.com. It just works, y'all. It's a great device. I keep one in my travel bag. I travel with it. I used one the other day on my back porch, and it just eliminates odors. So go to EdenPureDeals.com, put in the discount code ERIC, ERICK, the number 3, no space after it, and you can wipe out odors and clean up the air in your room. Y'all, college football is back. The ESPN honors Lee Corso tomorrow. The Ohio State game, LSU plays tomorrow night. It's going to be a great Saturday in America. Temperatures are going down. College football is back. And honoring Lee Corso, I don't know if y'all have seen the video. It's gone viral online. He was not even flying private, flying Southwest. From Orlando going up to Ohio, and the Southwest gate agent cheering on Lee Corso, standing ovation for him. God bless him. Now, Before I get into this next bit, I don't want to keep Spencer waiting on this. Calling from Jacksonville, Florida. Listen to WOKV. Welcome, Spencer. How are you?
Good, Eric. Thanks for taking my call. Nice to talk to you again.
Sure.
So I want to talk to you about this school shooting incident, and back to what you were just saying a second ago. First of all, I agree with you. We do need more guns. But that's more so for a secondary response after something happens. The issue is that we need to take better preventative actions at the school, mainly stopping these people from even being able to get into the school. And I never hear anybody talking about this, and it drives me crazy because I have a background in security. I lived out in Las Vegas for 15 years, and I've worked down at the nightclubs on the Strip and inside the casinos, and I know you've been there enough times. You know what that looks like. And I worked over at the Wynn and Encore, which have probably the strictest security protocols of any property on the Strip. And you know, a lot of us are not armed, but nobody's getting through the front door of any of those clubs because on the hotel side, they have officers that are armed standing next to us who are not armed, but they're not getting inside the front door. And so I don't understand why these schools just don't have a stricter security protocol where you only have so many points of entry so that you have to go through a security checkpoint and every bag is checked, every bag is searched, or you just don't even allow certain types of bags. And so anybody who's thinking of doing this has to go through a point where there's going to be somebody armed right there at that point. And I never hear anybody talking about this. And I know that it can be done because if we can do it and get through thousands of people in one night through the front door, they can do it at one school. But I never hear anybody talking about this, and I just want to get your thoughts on that.
You would think that they would. And, you know, there was the Appalachia High School shooting here in Georgia, and the state legislature took very seriously reforms to limit entry into schools, checkpoints, having security personnel. I still think that allowing teachers who choose to be armed is something schools need to consider. But you're right, and let's take the Vegas example. I'm ready to be there. Quite frankly, Spencer, I could use to unplug and just go hang out in Vegas for a few days and do nothing. And you go to one of the casinos. There are millions of people, hundreds of thousands at least, funneling up and down the Strip in Las Vegas, going in and out of casinos, and you don't have the mass security instance, knock on wood, but you don't have the mass security instance, and security there is very tight, and you don't even see it. It blends in so well. The cameras, the checkpoints, the unarmed and the armed officers who you never even pay attention to, constantly surveilling, constantly monitoring, limiting access. You know, my kids now, my son, his school, there is a single point of entry. It is a single point of entry for the school. Multiple exit points, but a single entry point. And they are super strict with it from the very first day of school to the last day of school. But there are a lot of schools that have not been, and we're at the point now where they got to take it seriously. And I don't see why if teachers want to volunteer to go through a training program and be armed, why we're not allowing the teachers who want to do it to do it. And it seems like, there are solutions we could do, but the only thing the left will allow to be entertained is taking guns away, which isn't going to happen because you got to get 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate and 3/4 of the states, and you don't have the votes there. You got the votes for the other stuff, but for some reason, nobody wants to talk about it. Now, I want to talk about China. I want to talk about what they're doing. There is more and more data out there about the Chinese are essentially at war with us. The president, by the way, is announcing he will not let 600,000 Chinese students into the country now. He's rolled that back. It'll be regular numbers now. I want to play you this audio. This is from Fox 26. I want to say Houston, Texas. It's in Texas. Listen to this.
Since 2022, 45-year-old Yunhai Lee has been conducting federally funded breast cancer research at MD Anderson, according to investigators. Research they say he tried to steal and take back to China.
We were able to detain him as he was trying to get on a flight to China.
Court records say that Lee uploaded sensitive data to his personal Google Drive, and then MD Anderson found out and confronted him. They say that he deleted those files from the drive and even showed MD Anderson proof. What he didn't tell them was that he uploaded that data to a separate Chinese server, and then he packed his bags.
There was a pretty good chance that he was going to be either deported or leave the country. We needed to file something. We needed to ensure that he was going to stay here and the information was going to stay here and he was going to be held accountable.
In 2019, MD Anderson dealt with something similar, firing 3 Chinese researchers who were suspected of sharing sensitive data with China. Lee is charged with theft of trade secrets and tampering with the government record, but this investigation is far from over.
That's Houston's Fox 26 about the Chinese at MD Anderson. Mike Sudman is a retired Rear Admiral of the Navy. I want to read you this. China has engineered a silent invasion of the United States. PRC government and mercenary hackers continued pillaging of hard-won American intellectual property worth an estimated $250 to $600 billion each year, enabling China to now globally lead in 37 out of 44 critical tech areas. CCP cyber teams' incessant efforts to penetrate, map, and pre-stage malicious software into U.S. critical infrastructure like electric power grids, utilities, telecom, and transportation networks. CCP exploitation of tuition dollars, grants, and gifts they funnel to prominent U.S. colleges and universities to facilitate the PRC's access to STEM knowledge and critical technology research, which fuels copycat innovation, catalyzes civil-military fusion, and supercharges the People's Liberation Army modernization. CCP pressure and inducements on American sinologists to temper coverage of sensitive historic or contemporary topics that could otherwise shine a better light onto CCP behaviors, pathologies, and stratagems. That is, American Chinese experts to temper their coverage. PRC, understand People's Republic of China, PRC solicitation of American-based scientists to visit, lecture, and teach in China or collaborate on research projects as part of the CCP, Chinese Communist Party's high-end foreign expert recruitment program. Chinese student and scholars associations collusion with the People's Republic of China embassies and consulates to monitor their own citizens, restrict speech, and constrain academic freedom on American campuses. China Ministry of State Security and public security agents travel to the U.S. under false pretenses to hunt, intimidate, harass, and render Chinese dissidents living here. People's Republic of China infiltration of American government labs, research institutes, technology centers, and clear defense contractor companies. MSS solicitation through incentives, patriotism, and leverage over family members in mainland China to compel Chinese living in America to cooperate with PRC agents to relinquish U.S. intellectual property to their ancestral country. That is a state services group in the United States that operates as a Chinese police department in the U.S. to harass Americans here of Chinese descent who have Chinese relatives back in China. The Communist Party subsidization of fentanyl precursors for export. The Chinese Communist Party's success in coercing major U.S. companies and organizations with commercial stakes in China to kowtow to Beijing by verbally support for Communist Party policy choices, including public apologies when they might counter the party line. Communist Party propaganda and disinformation efforts in the U.S. media ecosystem. Chinese aggressive collection of big data, including from social media platforms like TikTok, to sharpen Beijing's widespread influence. Efforts in America shape perceptions, amplify divisions, and fine-tune Chinese machine learning algorithms to obtain decision advantage in diplomacy, military, and economic matters. The Chinese Communist Party strategy to promote sister cities and provinces and curry favor at the U.S. state and local level through business dealings to create dependencies and shape federal policy choices. Chinese Communist Party cutout entities hiring U.S. lobbying companies to sway American politicians against legislation Beijing deems disadvantage to China. Brazen Chinese efforts to gain access to U.S. bases and national security facilities. Chinese-owned commercial ships and auxiliary vessels likely involvement in collection while near U.S. territories or operated in U.S. ports, and their potential to engage in sabotage by severing seabed communication cables. Chinese greenfield, brownfield, and direct investments in property and infrastructure near sensitive U.S. military and government installations around the country to facilitate intelligence collection and interfere with military operations. Continued Chinese Communist Party enticements of a substantial number of American investors and venture capitalists to divert capital into the Chinese market, regardless of mid- or long-range security impacts to U.S. service members or Americans in the homeland. These are all the things China is doing here in the United States right now. All the things they're doing right now in the United States. The FBI has released a statement today about the massive salt typhoon, 80-country compromise of the communications grids. The Chinese right now are listening to every phone call you have in the United States. They have hacked so far into our telecom system, and we have no idea how to get them out of it. None. No idea. And the government doesn't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about how compromised we are. That they want us to know. And by the way, yesterday, if you subscribe to the 4 Things to Know this afternoon, after the show, one of the big headlines that came out right as the show was ending is that U.S. Treasury is noting that over $600 billion in money laundered through the United States since 2021 through Chinese entities, much of which was going to drug cartels in Mexico to send fentanyl back to this country. They're poisoning us. They're hacking us. They're spying on us. They're developing algorithmic advantages against us. Why are we allowing TikTok to continue to operate? Why are we allowing TikTok is one of the means by which the Chinese spy on us and build algorithmic information and competitive advantages against us, and the president, for some reason, refuses to go on and shut it down. The law gives him no such discretion. He's claimed it anyway. The Chinese are at war with us. It is a Cold War. It's not a hot war, but it is a war nonetheless. When will Washington, Republicans and Democrats alike, get serious dealing with what's going on in China? You got Howard Lutnick in Washington trying to imitate China with state capitalism. We can beat China with the free market. We don't have to become them. We can beat them. We have advantages. Freedom is an inherent advantage. Our economy is doing better than them. President Xi has just fired all the top military leaders that he himself put in place. That suggests there is real geopolitical strategic weakness with Xi, that he's having to purge the military. Why? Because the Chinese Communist Party leadership is starting to realize maybe we don't want to invade Taiwan. Our economy is collapsing. He's trying to prop himself up. Take actions now to weaken Xi further. Part of that involves going on and getting rid of TikTok. Be brave, Mr. President. Do the right thing. Greetings, conversationalists. It is Eric Erickson here this fine Friday. It's an open line Friday, 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would be very happy to have you on the show. We had a good time with my daughter last night for her 20th birthday, and we are taking her to see her grandparents today in Carrollton, Georgia, about 2 hours from us, after I get off work, and I'm hoping the weather's going to hold this weekend so I can get out and hit golf balls and watch football. So, on Sunday nights, it is a thing, and sometimes I say maybe I should have never mentioned it, but it's just become a thing now. On Sunday, I have friends over. We sit on the porch. My wife, for my birthday, actually got me upgraded rocking chairs for the front porch. And so I cook, and people come over, and we watch TV, have bourbon, cigars. This is going to be the last Sunday without a college or without an NFL game until February. There will be, this is it. This is Labor Day weekend is the last Sunday without NBC Sunday Night Football until February. And I cannot wait to have football back. And, I get people who reply all the time when I say stuff like this. They're like, well, I don't watch football anymore. Colin Kaepernick. I don't know. I don't let stuff like that bother me. It's your choice to get worked up about it and to get angry about it. And I don't have to watch it. I don't have to watch the hyper effeminate gay cheerleaders. I have no intention of watching them. I just want to watch the football game. And it's notable to me in the ratings how the NBA has just collapsed in ratings and viewership as it's just become a group of tall guys throwing three-pointers without any teamwork and also hyper-political. And the NFL, they went through the Colin Kaepernick thing and the like, and they moved away from it and started focusing on the game and not the political messages. And the NFL leadership, they're their own worst enemy. They still require some of these woke messages, but generally, I'm just going to watch the game. If you don't want to watch it, that's fine. What I find, it's like the vaccine stuff with my wife. If you're not going to get the vaccine, that's fine. But yelling at me or belittling me because my wife with stage 4 lung cancer has a cardiologist, a pulmonologist, an oncologist, and a general physician telling her she needs the vaccine, she's going to get it, and you're like, I don't think she should. How dare you do that? It's just like, I just don't care. If you don't want to watch it, it's okay with me. But it's wild, the judgmentalism of some people who insist that you shouldn't watch the NFL. They've gone woke. Maybe you should watch it and you'll realize, no, they haven't. You're more likely to hear about Jesus during an NFL game or in a college football game than pretty much anything else on TV these days. I'll take that. Now, I'll also take Hillsdale College and their free classes that you can take. Go to ericforhillsdale.com, E-R-I-C-K, ericforhillsdale.com. You sign up. They got a great one on the Federalist Papers right now on how they've been so influential in the country, explaining the intent of the Constitution and the framers and how the Supreme Court to this day still cites them. Got one on citizenship, so much more. ericforhillsdale.com, E-R-I-C-K, ericforhillsdale.com. You go sign up with Hillsdale College, and you can learn a lot. You can learn a lot from them, and you don't pay a penny. They've got 40 different classes to choose from on the Constitution and early American history, history in general, politics and philosophy, economics, math, chemistry, lots on the English language and literature, the really good stuff on C.S. Lewis and Shakespeare. Highly recommend them. You don't pay a penny. You do it at your own pace. Every lecture is 30 minutes, depending on which class you take, depends on how many lectures there are. They're 30 minutes on video. You watch at your own pace, and you just get smarter about a great topic. Eric, E-R-I-C-K, ericforhillsdale.com. Go sign up with Hillsdale College today. Now, when we come back, we'll go off the deep end into that territory, the demons among us, and in the machine, some wild stories hitting the wires about ChatGPT that are tied into all the other stuff that's happening out there.